What's up, everyone? We are back on the Giles and the Goalie podcast YouTube channel. Very pleased to be back. I'll get into why later on. Um, that there was kind of a disconnect in the video that we had going. So you know, check that out later. But anyway, great to be back here on the channel. And we're going to recap the Minnesota Wild's first round draft pick here in 2019 here on Friday night. First, I've got a couple of things to say. First off, I'm repping the Minnesota Twins as they are doing quite well this year, which is wonderful. Got to get that out of the way. And then, of course, my beloved Liverpool FC, which you can see behind me and here with the scarf. They won the Champions League this year. So I finally got to experience a championship, and I had to go not in Minnesota to do that. So what a great feeling. Okay, I'm sorry. That's enough. Enough's enough. Minnesota Wild select Matt Boldy in the first round with the 12th overall pick. You know, I like the pick, and I'm sorry to say that. I, like many of you, wanted Cole Caulfield at number 12. He was still on the board from the U.S. National Development Team, but the Wild did not go that route. They went with Matt Boldy, who also from the U.S. National Development Team, which was a huge theme of the night here on Friday night. U.S. team getting a lot of love, a lot of selections. And the future for USA hockey is certainly bright, which, would be great, except nobody seems to, know a flying F if we're going to ever put NHL players in the Olympics again. But that's not here nor there. Matt Boldy, by all accords, reading, Corey Prominent of The Athletic, McKean's Hockey, very high on Matt Boldy. The big quality for him is his shot. Great shot, which if you look at his highlights, you can see very good. Very, very good. And that's something the Wild need. They need a player with a good shot that's going to hit the corners. They're not going to shoot it right in the goaltender's chest. And Matt Boldy going to play at Boston College this next year. As McKean's even went as far as saying, he could be a one and done at Boston College because of how good he is already. So that's something to look forward to. If the Wild have, kind of another subpar year, they could easily go to him at the end of this next year, 2019-20, and say, you can jump into our lineup here at the end of the year, then you can have a summer to work, and then you can come back and you can be, you can be in our top six, blah, blah, blah. That's something that is conceivable. And Corey Prominent of The Athletic, who is a very highly respected prospect analyst, which is why he's working for The Athletic, let's be honest. He had a lot of nice things to say about Boldy as well. And it just seems to be a good pick from the Wild, even though they didn't take Cole Caulfield, who, was seemingly a highlight reel. He went to the Montreal Canadiens at number 15. I know there's a lot of angst about not taking Caulfield, and I get it. I would have liked to have seen him taken there, but you wonder if size played a bit into that decision. Caulfield only 5'7", Boldy 6'1", 190. And, hockey men love nothing more than bloody size to play into a decision too. So let's not rule that out. 200 hockey men, they have a hard-on for size. So I can't say that was the sole decision, but again, I'm not as appalled with this pick as others are, and only time's going to tell. I could be a blithering idiot about this, so we'll see what happens. I did ask some questions. I'm sorry, we're 4.5 minutes into this, and I haven't gotten to your questions. I did ask questions. If enough of you asked questions, I was going to do this video, so I was feeling good enough to do this. So I do want to get to some questions here. A lot are from Ben Remington, like come on, guy, let the common people have their time in the sun. But he did ask, what's a good nickname for Boldy, since his name is already locker roomized because you put a Lee on the end of it essentially. So yeah, I think he replied to it with Bolds. I think that's a good one. Brett Marshall had Bolds. I think that's another good one. I think that's just a question to ask him because he probably already has it. So I'm not going to be the one that's going to give a definitive answer to that question. Another Ben Remington question. Seriously, guy, just stop asking me questions. Let the other people have their time in the sun. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be that rude. He said, Russo says, Zucker's likely staying now. Do you think we see yet another relatively uneventful offseason? Well, let me tell you, pal, today was a bleeping, boring-ass show. Like, I watched the NBA draft yesterday. I will put that out there. And it was entertaining. There were trades. Just everything was going on with the NBA draft. And then you flip the page today, you go to the NHL draft. Nothing happened. We didn't get our first trade of the day, until like an hour and 20 minutes into the first round of the draft. That is absurd. That is awful. That is boring. Like, Sean McIndoe of The Athletic had a great point this week when he said NHL GMs could be incredibly more creative with their trades, and they could. And he cited the Anthony Davis to the Lakers trade, where it was like a 2020, 2022, and a 2024 first-round pick were going to New Orleans from Los Angeles. NHL GMs only trade in the here and now, and I worry that they only see in the here and now. NBA GMs also have the same shelf life as NHL GMs, but yet they're not afraid to give out those picks that they're never going to see. So creativity from NHL general managers is just absurdly low, and I don't understand why you can't get more creative, and I don't understand why you can't get more trades. Teams go in year out with like 75% of the same roster, and it is absurd. It makes no sense, and it's upsetting. Like, you love to see that kind of player movement that the NBA has, and I'm sorry for keep putting the NBA up here, but it's true. Like, there's just a better product that the NBA puts out, and it's upsetting. So that's I guess to answer the question, I'm sorry, I got way off topic here, but another uneventful offseason. Yeah, I think so. And we saw Paul Fenn tonight say that, he wants the right pick for Jason Zucker. Sorry, the right trade. Which, that's a good strategy. We have seen 3 trades where Jason Zucker has almost been traded for terrible trades. The Wild are the definitive losers of those 3 trades. And finally, he has the stones to say, has to be the right trade. Good. Good for you. He's under contract for 4 more years. You are not obligated in any way to trade him, regardless of the young players that you've traded for. Good for you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for finally having a sense of rationality somewhere in your head. Question from Michael Brennan, listener of the Giles and Goalie podcast. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. Is Boldy's potential enough to justify taking him over a pure scoring right wing like Caulfield, who is a positional organizational need? I think so. I haven't seen these players play. I've just seen highlights, and so I kind of trust what people who have scouted him have seen. But I like what I've heard of Boldy. The only knock on him is, sometimes it's just a question of, making sure he's in the right gear on a given night, which is something they obviously hope they can iron out. But, Boldy's another left shot, left wing. The Wild are just full of it right now, and it's a best player available thing. If you ask Paul Fenn about it, he'll probably say it's a best player available thing. And that's just your cliche garbage. But I I still would have liked to have picked Caulfield there, but Boldy isn't a bad 1A in this instance. So again, only time's going to tell what's going to happen here. Montreal could just absolutely be stealing with this pick, or the Wild could just end up with another first round dud like we've seen so many times in their history, which great. If you're someone who just loves to watch the Wild, great. Another question from Kevin Gustafson. How surprised are you that that's the only move the Wild made to May? Well, honestly, like I said, early in the afternoon, we're going to see no moves today. And I hate to say that, and I was right, because NHL general managers love to not do their job. So the fact that I'm sorry, I shouldn't say they love to not do their job. They love an excuse. They love an excuse to not do their job. And that's why I thought they were given the perfect excuse with the fact that there's no salary cap definite number until Saturday to say that, yeah, that's why we didn't make any moves. So it's been, I guess I'm not surprised, to be honest, if I'm being very truthful. Like, I expected nobody to do anything, and that's exactly what happened. And I wish the NHL was more like the NBA in essence, that they were more active on draft day, which, in previous years, yeah, they were. They were very active. And today we just got nothing, which is just terrible for the league. It's terrible for the fans who went to the draft tonight. And Ben and I had a long discussion about the NHL and what's wrong with it a few weeks ago on the podcast, and I would highly encourage you to listen to it. I think it was episode 196, where we just ranted about the NHL and just the old boys club, no outward thinking. It's just when you just recycle general managers and then you just recycle in players who played through that team, like Steve Yzerman in Detroit, Joe Sakic in Colorado. When you're just doing that, you're just bringing back legends of your team. Like, you're not going to change anything. You need more outward thinkers. You need to bring in more of the John Chaikas, Kyle Dubas. These guys who, they didn't grow up in a hockey background, but they are now in the sport. You need more outside thinkers like that in this game to change it for the better. And until that, we're just going to get this. So, there you go. From friend Doubles, is the dismay with the Wild's pick at least in part due to Fenn's low public approval rating? He says, "I'm mad as hell. I'm not gonna take this anymore." Yeah, I think that's a huge part of what we're seeing tonight from Wild fans is Paul Fenn in 1 year has done an incredible job of digging a hole for himself. And I admit I had no confidence in him before that pick. And when you set the bar that low, I think that's kind of why I'm at where I'm at. I set the bar so low. I thought he's just going to go off the board out of nowhere with this pick again like we saw last year. And he surprised me. He did good with that pick, in my opinion. So that's why I'm not as appalled as everyone else. So, trades aside, and that's why I looked at it this last week on Zone Coverage. I looked at last year's draft, and if you take away that first round pick, you look at rounds 3 through 7, you see the Wild actually did a pretty good job of drafting. And they drafted a lot of players who have maybe higher ceilings that this organization is needing. And maybe they got a couple of steals in the third round. So I think Doubles is kind of dead on there that there's a little bit more dismay with the general managers because of past moves he's made, which is fair criticism to him. Trades he made in the last year were awful. So that's that's fair to just not give him the benefit of the doubt. So I can't hate on anyone for saying, I got to see it till I see it. But I've always been a glasses half full guy, so I'm going to wait and let that one play out. So that's what I got for that. Um, I'm looking for more questions. How long do you project until Boldy is NHL ready? This is from Connor Henderson. That's one question. I don't know the answer to that. I've read that he could maybe be a one and done in college hockey. I might have mentioned that earlier, but we'll see. That's very up in the air. Again, I haven't done a lot of research on prospects, and I haven't written a lot on them. In fact, I didn't write at all on them this week, and I'll tell you why. Is when you scout players like this, you're just basically reading other people's words and you're watching video. You're not seeing them live, and basically what you're doing is you're just when you're reading on these players, you're just taking other people's words. So you're regurgitating other people's words. And that, to me, is kind of a red flag. I don't like to regurgitate other people's words. I want what I write to be authentic. So that's kind of the way I crafted my draft week writing approach is I tried to do things that I could write on my own, and I feel like I did a good job. That's up for you to decide. ReadZoneCoverage.com/wild if you are not sure, but that's kind of why I steered clear of the prospects, because I let the people who actually watched or had, scouts on staff to do that. So, but yeah, what I've read on Boldy is, he could be a one and done, could be two and done. We'll see, depending on how good of a year he has at Boston College. And I would lean on one and done based on what I've read and given the Wild roster going into next year through the year, but we'll see. And then Connor also asked, do you think his upside warrants passing on a true organizational need, right shot, goal scorer like Caulfield, which we kind of answered, but yeah, it's the NHL draft is always a little bit of a crapshoot. And the fact that you're never drafting for team needs now, you're drafting for down the road. And, the fact that the Wild have, no right-handed shots at all, would say, you could draft one now and then you could have one. You could have a few by the time he gets there, but you don't know. So I'm optimistic about it. Again, I think Caulfield should have been the pick, but I'm still going to take the glass is half full approach. And that I like the Boldy pick. So, I think we got through it all. Oh, Ben asked, perfect. No, wait a minute. We'll come to that last. Ryan Luck asked, what a better draft, Wild or Wolves? The Wolves, in my opinion, need a point guard. They traded up to 6 in hopes to get one, and then they didn't. They took a shooting guard. It's hard to tell because NBA draft, you're always kind of drafting for the now, and NHL draft, you're just drafting for the future. But if I have to, make a pick now, I'm going to say the Wild just because I like what I've seen from Matt Boldy. And I wasn't completely enthused with the Wolves pick, although I've been kind of talked into that. And apparently Paul Fenn right now telling the media he's not planning on getting rid of Jason Zucker unless the right deal comes to him. So apparently he's trying to make up for the past trades that have not gone through and have been reported, which he didn't like previous. So Another question from Jesse de Saint Hubert. Will um, Goalie be the next Boston College power forward traded in the expansion draft? I dear God hope not, because I don't need another forward to go to the expansion team and score 30 goals. Um, that that would just be not good. Um, so I think we got it all. Johnson from Wisconsin asks, why Boldy over Caulfield and Knight? Apparently, the Panthers didn't think it was too early for a franchise goalie at number 13, which was right after the Wild picked at 12. Spencer Knight was very interesting this year, and a lot of people, including myself, kind of wrote on it, and the fact that he seemingly is a generational goalie talent, and he was kind of defying odds of going in the first round. You typically now in the draft don't see goalies go until very late in the first round or early second round. That's kind of the start of when you see goalies go. And the Wild do obviously have an organizational need down the road for goaltenders, and I think they're going to address that in this draft. I'm just pleased it wasn't in the first round. I think they have too much problems up front at forward, now or down the road, because outside of Kirill Kaprizov, they don't have prospects that are really goal scoring capable, and that's a caveat to the 2018 draft class because the jury's still out on that. So, we'll see on them, but outside of Kirill Kaprizov, the Wild really need goal scoring kind of talents, and I think Boldy can be that player. He can be a good goal scorer. So they still needed that, and I think we'll see the Wild address in rounds 2 or 3. I've heard it's a good goaltending draft to address that need. They could take a goaltender in round 2. It'll still take them a few years to address it, but they still can. There's still time. It's not over for having a generational goaltender. They're not all just gonna be round 1, although a lot of them are. So could happen. But another question from Michael Brennan: are there any prospects left who you like enough to think the Wild should trade up for? Honestly, again, I don't. I'm not going to say I'm a prospect expert. Basically, my approach to this is I just look at who the Wild drafted. I look at what's good. I look at what's bad, and I try to make the best out of what I think of it. So, that's a really tough one to answer because I don't scout these players. So it really puts me in a spot like I would like to be out there. I would like to know everything about everyone, but I can't. And again, it kind of comes back to that. I could read on somebody and then tell you that, but again, I'm just kind of regurgitating somebody else's words. So, sorry, that's kind of a cop-out answer, but kind of where I'm at with prospects. And maybe next year I can maybe put a little more time in and watch a little more on prospects, but you don't know. So that's what I got. So I think we've gone on. Oh, we've got some more late questions. Shane Leclerc asks, is it worrying that most of Boldy's assists are Caulfield goals on his highlight reels? And then he also asks, with our current collection of prospects, how does he fit in? Well, right now I kind of vault him up into the upper echelon. I think right now I put him behind Kirill Kaprizov to answer that question first. And then I think we'll kind of see over next year what'll happen. He can maybe, as the scouting experts suggest, he could maybe jump over Kaprizov. But right now, he's probably the Wild's second best prospect. And I think that speaks, one, to how good he is, and two, to how thin the Wild's prospect system is. And this isn't counting like Cunnin, Joel Eriksson at Greenway, who are all going to be on the Wild roster next year. And then the other question that Shane had asked, was it concerning that most of Boldy's assists are from Caulfield? And yeah, that's always a concern. But you kind of look at his goals and you kind of see that great shot that he has. So I think it's more in the fact that you want somebody that can shoot and that shoots to score, not shoot to put the puck on the net. And I think the Wild have enough passengers, as it stands, and moving forward, we'll see what happens. But the Wild certainly have enough players that want to pass the puck, but you need players that want to shoot, and that's what Paul Fenn's trying to accomplish. He's trying to accomplish getting players in here that want to shoot. Ryan Donato, Kevin Fiala, these are players he's brought in to try to shoot. And, Matt Boldy could just be another player that he brings in that, hey, this guy wants to shoot. He wants to score. The Wild have just been a team mired in pass, no shot. So bring in players that shoot to score, just fine. Perfectly fine. It might not always work out, but you want someone that at least takes the shot. You gotta shoot your shot. You shoot 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. That's how it goes. So, yeah. So that is all the questions that we had. Wow, we've gone on almost a half hour. I can't believe this. Thank you to everyone for watching this live stream. I can't believe if you sat through it all. Thank you so much. If you just sat through the replay of this, thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow for a day 2 recap. I'll just have a day 2 recap at Zone Coverage. Check out the analysis of them at Boldy Pick at zonecoverage.com. Subscribe to Giles and the Goalie podcast, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. And yeah, that'll do it for us again. Thanks so much. And hopefully we can keep coming back for more of these videos. But yeah, we'll talk to you again later.